The other day I was running an Nmap command and I was like, oh, what's the command for no pings? And I stared at the screen for like 5 minutes and I'm like, oh, wait, I have to hand back my SISP now.
Hey, welcome back to Simply Cyber. So we've had a couple fun videos out recently. We got the whole band back together now. Katie and Robin are joining us. It's been a while since we recorded something together, which is really nice to have everybody back. I've also got someone at the table here I'm really happy to introduce, Joe Cummins from CyberNetIQ. So Joe is the CTO and Founder of CyberNetIQ, making waves in the cybersecurity arena.
Doing my best.
Doing his best, and really happy to talk to him about what I think is called SOAR right now, security orchestration, automation and response technology, something we desperately need because our organizations, our networks, of course, are expanding exponentially every day. We're moving off-prem into the cloud, and it's really important to see what's going on outside of our networks and keep an eye on how things are happening, who's in our networks, and how things are reacting. So, Joe, welcome.
Thank you. Joe Cummins, CTO, founder of CyberNetIQ. I got my start a long time ago. I'm the product of a Bell Canada kid. I did a lot of work outside of the country, primarily in process control systems. So I did a lot of OT, IoT, IIoT, and then came back and was invited to join the government. So DRDC has a program called the Center for Security Science, CSS. They put out a publication for PSTP programs, and one of them was a SCADA testbed, which is similar in structure to the American testbed out of Idaho National Labs. So myself and a peer of mine from the RCP were hosted by NRCan, and the three of us, Merry Band of Misfits, made a testbed. It was designed originally to be able to simulate Canadian ecosystems of critical infrastructure. Because Canadian investment means a lot to us, we put it out to the world and to the community to start to build it, support it, grow it at a grassroots level, incrementally. So Public Safety Canada, through their CSCP program, Canadian Cybersecurity Cooperation Program, would basically fund us for the next 2.5 years, 3.5 years, to get us to where we were before we were invited to go down to the NSA with a group called Data Tribe. We did a 3-month due diligence process with them to see what was really under the hood, if it was smoke and mirrors, if there's something there. And they gave us what's known in the community as an unsolicited term sheet. So we weren't asking for a term sheet, we're just looking for some due diligence to be able to, do we actually have a product here or not? And then they turned around and handed us a really nice piece of paper that says, we would love to be involved in your company's growth, and then had to politely decline because it required us to become American, to sell the company and to lay off all the staff and become an American product and blah, 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 blah. And I took exception to that because we had put in about over $1.5 million worth of federal programming and funding into the technology. It seems a little bit dirty to do that, but that gave us a lot of street cred to come back home and actually start to build out the product from the ground up. And then Public Safety, the resiliency program, got wind of what we were doing and said, we like your product, we'd like to see it in pilot. And that was the starting of what eventually would turn into getting the first term sheet from Mars. Mars is, think of it like Invest Ottawa in Toronto. So they're both an accelerator, an incubator, and also are a funding magnet. And then of course, I hang out at Invest Ottawa when I'm in the city, which recently is not very often. But it's been an absolute labor of love now. I can't think of myself doing anything else. But although I feel like in a lot of ways I've traded my tradecraft for a suit, so maybe I have sold out. I just didn't recognize it. The other day I was running an Nmap command and I was like, oh, what's the command for no pings? And I stared at the screen for like 5 minutes and I'm like, oh wait, I have to hand back my SISP now. So the challenge that was issued to us through DRDC was, how would you perceive the cyber battlefield? There are two basic pieces of any network ever: firewall configuration, packet traffic. If you've got those two things, that's the lowest common denominator. You're good to go. You got some form of cybersecurity. You might not be this, but you're kind of like thinking about putting that Redux. So every layer that you enrich after that is just one additional source of information. So we imagined a plurality of sources being able to be perceived in a three-dimensional space. So CLAW is a virtual container now. CLAW stands for Control Layer Assessment Workstation. So it's gone through a number of iterations. It was a server originally. Gen 1 was built by a friend of ours, Mike Kellen, who helped us out building it in Scala, ACA, and Play.
Shout out to Mike.
Shout out to Mike Kellen for the win. And then from that point onwards, it started to take a different life. It actually became a Java program, then it became a Java server, and then it became a Docker container, and now it's a full-on OVA. It's a full-on ecosystem within a specific virtual deployment. So CLAW is now considered to be an attack surface analysis tool, an ASA. And slightly different than SOAR, we would sit on top of and hand connective tissue to SOAR, and SOAR would run various things if you're using SOAR. So let's imagine tomorrow morning I gave you a wire level view of your network. What would it look like? How would you interact with it? What would you be able to do with that information? So CLAW is effectively a layered approach to being able to perceive that. If you're able to see what it looks like, you're able to do something with it.
Say you're a small department or agency in the government.
Okay.
How do you go about getting yourself sorted out to use your tool? Like, what are the steps they need to consider? Not so much the mechanics of how to actually do it, but like, I want to get in the headspace. I want to start thinking about my next steps, maturing in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Wow. It's a good question. It really depends on the type of agency, department, and organization you represent. I found personally. I typically will categorize, or rather stereotype, organizations quickly so that I'm able to burn utils of energy more appropriately. There are types of organizations that get cybersecurity, meaning they comprehend it. And there are types of organizations that buy cybersecurity, meaning they purchase it outright. There might not necessarily be any logic in the purchase, but they just go in and buy it because it's shiny. Organizations that get cybersecurity that don't have financing or don't have budget or don't have a lot of the ability to support a massive procurement effort will have to cobble something together. And those organizations I love working with because they understand the value of a dollar, they understand good value for money, they'll work with you on being able to carve out that statement of work so that when they issue that procurement, it's not nonsense. And it's not going to go to the street. And it's not going to be everybody and their best friend trying to bid on it. Right? It's not the race with the mono. Now, compare that against an organization that buys cybersecurity. You will see a commoditization of the effort in a lot of ways. They'll try to negotiate, or maybe they might not necessarily understand what the tool does. And do you support our existing plethora of products? Do you do the number 9 and the color purple? Because I love 9 and purple is just my jam. So it's difficult to work with an organization like that because they don't have any strategy. And their approach to cybersecurity, it's just like, whatever. We'll figure it out on the other side. Now, when you get some of the mix in between the two of them, organizations that have budget and have strategy, now that's the sweet spot. That's the organization you want to work with. Those are my best friends.
Can you inherit or acquire strategy?
Sure. You can clone it. You can find organizations that are doing it well, and see how that might marry up with your approach, or how that could be transferable or cross-pollinated. Some of the smartest teams I see in the space right now are organizations that start off with, we have no idea what we're doing. We need to figure out what we're doing. And we see a number of groups around us that are doing a really good job. Talk with them, probe a bit, and then figure out exactly what their model has been, and then try to recreate it.
So the thing I did notice you didn't say is index all of your endpoints and understand all that. That's
lunacy.
Okay.
How would you do that? And the utils and the caloric intake and the resources to do it, it's untenable. So figure out the proximity between the adversary and your crown jewels and start reverse engineering what you need. Your endpoints are all over the place. Okay, cool. Endpoint protection, done. Something. Okay, we need something to help our users to be able to understand and navigate that we have a new security policy we're pushing down. Okay, so they're going to get bulletins regularly. They're going to get training regularly. I think education is the silver bullet. If you have an educated cybersecurity team and an educated workforce, man, you're going to go places. Your stuff is going to be tickety-boo. And then the reverse is also true. If you have an uneducated, ill-informed, madly off in all directions group of individuals, not a team, that are not paying any attention to cybersecurity or the benefits of and the pitfalls to, you will have a breach. It's just a matter of time.
Is there anything with your tool that can be used, obviously, like as an educational component? Because if you're like an MRI for your systems and how they're layered and things like that, can it be then turned into a tool to bring someone from a beginner to an intermediate to the expert?
Yeah.
Could it be used as a training tool?
Yes, 100%. From my perspective, taking an individual off the street with little or no cybersecurity education, take a CISO, and then being able to put them in front of the product and understand and perceive the network for the first time, most people get it. It's the gamification of cybersecurity. Understanding that, okay, that's the centerpiece of my network and I need to protect it. And I'm going to build out layers upon layers upon layers upon layers until I reach the outside world to ensure that those bubbles, right, are always acting in my best interest. Because we have a skills shortage and we have a resource shortage, the ability of that individual, regardless if they're switched on or not, the ability for them to perceive and work as a community of operators together, you see right away. I have people that I've coached and that I've trained that don't come from cybersecurity, but they're able to lend their experience to the cybersecurity mission, and then you've got this, sum total of everybody's work.
I have one last question.
Yeah, you're almost out of time.
Yeah. What's the biggest mistake that you've made so far?
Good question.
Staying in Canada as long as I did. Fighting the good fight, staying the course, keeping the faith. And that was a technical and tactical mistake.
So why are you still here?
That's a good point. I've traveled the world many times over. I'm on my third passport. I've worn the uniform, not to wrap myself up too much in the flag, but I come home and I'm literally 2 blocks away from where I live when I grew up, because I know that it is quite possibly the best place on the planet to live.
Well, to be honest, you can operate from here and go anywhere as well.
Sure. 100%. The Canadian flag and the Canadian peacekeeper abroad, that image resonates with every other populace, every other society that I've been to. Whether it's Kuwait, Malaysia, other Commonwealth countries, other nation states that are maybe not really high on our list of nation states that we want to be, swapping handshakes with, that are looking to do us harm, but they still respect us, regardless of where we go. And that's a huge reason for why I continue to dig my heels in and really kind of go whole hog when I talk about cybersecurity in Canada.
Cool. All right, so I guess that's it. So thanks very much, Joe.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
this was a fantastic,
great conversation.
Good. We really like this. Hope we can do it some more.
Oh, for sure.
You gonna close out?
I've never done that before. This is Simply Cyber signing off.
You know what to do. You do it.
Oh.
Secure your shit?
Thank you very much. Secure your shit.